Alright, welcome to another Shinobi collection video, and this time we're about to go over a brand new tier list for PvP. Since we're towards the end of the month, and I believe the Kizuna, Madara, and Obito that we just got, pretty sure that is the final unit that we will be getting in 2021. So what's a better way to end 2021 with a reset of the tier list? And the other reason why I'm resetting the tier list is mainly because the legendary potential before Kizuna Kakashi, that potential awakening was very important to this game because that boosted your damage and your survivability by so much that if you don't have it, you were just in a big disadvantage. But now that Kizuna Kakashi, now that he's out, he introduced one of the best mechanics to counter that, which is the damage limit to 700,000. So all those penetrating additionals that we got before, those ended up being just 700,000 times 4. And the reason why that's good is because now, sure, the fights might be longer, but now it feels that you actually have a chance against people with max legendary potential unit. The only thing you gotta worry about them is their HP. But to be fair, that doesn't really add much. All it does is just like makes it so you have to hit them one more time, maybe even 2 times. And with the way the meta is going on right now, one or two extra hit doesn't really matter. Especially since another big difference that we got is now PvP is a 5v5 mode. Before it was a 4v4. So now you have that extra unit to take care of that extra HP, which means that this PvP that we're about to get, which hasn't been announced yet, the newest PvP, is going to be the PvP for this tier list. And with that, let's get started. So the only units I'm going to be ranking are the 90 cost units, so that will be your gods, your GKs, your Enbus, and your Kizunas. 40 cost unit, in my opinion, are not worth it to run anymore, just because most of them don't even have the kit to survive in the meta. So with that, let's go over. We're gonna start from the very beginning with V1, Naruto, and Sasuke. With these kind of units, in the start, there's not really much to talk about. They do big damage, but since the damage is limited to 700,000, their billions of damage ends up not mattering at all. They don't even have any revives, so that's just how it is. The V2 has always been worse. Same with these. So these are your base 5-star units. They're not really worth to talk about, to be honest. So Gashi is always so here. Now we can talk about another base 5-star unit, but this unit actually has a legendary potential, I believe. But she doesn't have any revive, and she doesn't have any additional attacks with her skills. So that's pretty much the main criteria of the tier list: is survivability, which means max legendary potential if you have it, or multiple revives. That's, at the end of the day, what's end up mattering. And then for damage is how many additional attacks you do. So for Kaguya, she has like a 6 times damage multiplier, but in the end of the day, that 6 times doesn't really end up mattering because that's just gonna be 700,000. So V2, Hashirama, and Madara. Now we get to the fun parts. So this character was our very first free-to-play max legendary potential unit in the game. So with that, and they have built-in 5 revives already. So how good are they? At the end of the day, they're support, but support in this game doesn't matter unless your support is unique state. If you're a character that has a god state or a special state, those in the end in this tier list, I'm not even gonna consider, just because of the way the game works. Is that negative state debuffs are never gonna stick. Positive is also not gonna stick. So with these characters, they have 5 lives. They don't have any additional attacks. They skip, which is very nice, but I believe you need your special state or your god state to be able to skip the enemies. And I think it's worth it to talk a little bit more about these units, just because they represent the old meta. So God State, 5 revives, skip, and nothing. Just because of that, I have to put them in B tier. I would put them in C. Actually, but they have 5 lives. The 5 lives is what saves them. Just because they're a little tankier than most units. So for example, here's Minato. I'm putting Minato in C, sadly. Before damage limit was a thing, Minato was the best free-to-play max legendary potential unit in my opinion. Just because Minato's damage is insane. He does so much damage. But now, that damage is 700,000, and your special state of flash mode never stays. Your debuff of flash disturbance, I believe, never stays. And then you only have 2 revives, so you're 100% worse than these two just because of how your survivability is. And we'll talk about V5. V5 is in the same boat as these guys. The exact same kit pretty much, except it's cancel, but you have 5 revives so you can stay. Pain has 5 revives, so you're here. Itachi, you're single target. So there's no point of being a single target in this game. Kakashi, sadly, was one of the most fun units back then. And especially before damage limit, just because he can debuff anyone he wants. But now, he can't debuff. He's AoE, but he has 3 withstand. Not even a revive. So at the end of the day, he's just slightly worse than the current meta. So then these guys will always be here. Uzumaki Tragedy. Shisui, I'm not even sure if he has legendary potential. But the problem with Shisui is he doesn't have any revives, so he has to go to D tier sadly. He just has no survivability. And he debuffs and he doesn't have any additional attacks, so sadly you're just gonna have to be there. Now we have Ashura, who has 5 additional attacks. And then he supports, which doesn't matter. But he doesn't have any revives, so again, no revive is instant D for me. No extra life is instant D. If you don't do a lot of damage, you can't go higher. And then V, I forget how, V something Naruto. Sadly, this Naruto has 1 revive. Just because you have 1 revive, I have to put you here. Sasuke is a little worse. Sakura is a little better, but not that better. She locks terrain. That's one thing that's very nice in this game. Actually, I'm gonna put her in B+ just because she locks terrain. She only has 2 revive. She doesn't do a lot of damage, but she locks terrain. And you have the brothers, the Hagoromo and Hamura. I believe they don't have any extra lives, so that means instant D. Kaguya doesn't have any extra lives, I'm pretty sure again. She has 1, but she doesn't have any additionals, and she's AoE, so that's solid for C. Kakashi, I believe he just got his very recent. He does counterattack, and he has 1 revive, and he's AoE, so that's a C. This Naruto just got his very recently. He has 1 revive, AoE. That's all he does, and he skips. So that's C. So at the moment, this is the criteria. No revives, and like 1 attack, you're in D. If you have at least 1 revive, you're in C. If you have 5 revives minimum, I'll put you in B just because you're tanky. And then B+ is for someone who has a very unique mechanic that doesn't get countered yet. Sakura's one of them. So now we talk about Jiraiya. Jiraiya has 3 50% revive, but he protects. And he has 1 additional attack. So, put him in B. But that's just kind of stuff. Someone who brings unique stuff. Hashirama. Let me see what you do. How many revives do you have? None, right? No, he has 5 withstand. 5 withstand is a little bit worse, sadly. And he cares about his special state a lot. He has 3 built-in additionals versus Uchiha, and Uchiha is actually pretty solid in this meta, so he can go to B tier. So this is how different this is, because back then I put Hashirama in like S tier, just because the way his mechanic works. But now he's in B tier, because this meta changed a lot. This Kaguya just got her legendary potential very recently. She does 10 additional attacks if she has her state up. Problem is, you're not gonna have that state up, and she doesn't have any revives. She has 99% damage cut, but that doesn't matter when 700,000 is the limit. So, sadly, she's in D tier. This Kaguya was really strong back then. But now, it hurts to put her in D tier. Just because you need to have multiple lives just to get out of D tier. And she doesn't have that. First strike, everyone has first strike. 99% damage cut, everyone's doing 700,000 damage. I'm pretty sure they're gonna bypass that. Or insta-kill her. Because she doesn't have any extra lives. And she doesn't do her 10 additional attacks, and you'll never get her stayed up. Sadly, she got hurt by just the way this meta changed. Minato has 3 withstand, pretty fast, and then 7 additional attacks if he has his state up. So that's a C tier. Obito. This Obito used to be a menace. He doesn't have any additional attacks, but he insta kills. But you have to have your state up for that. And lives, I believe he has 2. Yeah, he has 2 revives. 2 revives, that's a C tier. Tobirama, single target, probably D tier. I don't know why I have Itachi in C tier. He's in D tier. Do you have any extra lives? I don't even. He has 3 withstand, but he's single target debuff unit, so not a good look. And then Sakura. Sakura doesn't have any additional attacks. 2 revive. AoE, so C tier. Tsunade, really good in female PvP back in the days. That doesn't exist anymore. No revives. 5 revives. You know what that means? That means B tier. Really strong for back in the days. Orochimaru, I don't even know where I'm putting him. He is in garbage tier. He does 6 additional attacks if you have your state up. Again, what I was saying before, you'll never have that state up. And he doesn't have any revives. Instant D tier. Kakashi, single target. Sadly, it hurts to say, he has 1 withstand. This character used to be a menace back in the day. But there's just no reason to run him. He has 1 additional attack, but he's single target. D tier. It's kinda insane to put him in D tier, knowing his history. Where he used to be the best character in the game. That's just how this is how different that is. Wait, why did I put the tragedy in C tier? Let me go back and correct that. Did I really put him there for no reason? Naruto's single target, why are you there? Well, let's just correct them. I'm pretty sure they have they don't even have any revives. Yeah, I don't know why I put them here. My mistake. Put them a little too high than what they need to be. So where did we end up? So we have Indra. Indra's has 1 withstand, AoE, and 1 additional attack if you have your state up. 1 withstand is not good enough, that's D tier. 1 withstand is just not enough damage. Sasuke, single target, instant D tier. With 2 revives. That revive is not good enough to push you in C tier. Single target. Shisui. This is what's very interesting. Shisui, if you guys played this game for a long time, is one of the most terrifying units to fight. Just because he debuffs you to all hell. But now, you can't even get debuffed. He doesn't do any additional attacks, and he has 2 withstand. So, he's in C tier. 3 withstand. 3 withstand is probably okay enough. But 2 withstand is probably D. 3, I'm gonna put C. Itachi. This Itachi was one of my favorite units to use back then. But he's single target. There's nothing you can do with that. Single target and God State user. That's in D tier. Minato. I think we're getting... No. Still, no additional attacks. 3 withstand, so... What I said with Shisui, C tier. Kushina, fun unit. 3 withstand. British, she protects, but that's a God State. And then she... Yeah, you need... She's a single target. Yeah. D tier. All of her kit is tied behind her God State, and that's just not good enough in this time of day. Now we have Red Kaguya. This character might be the first unit that doesn't make it. 1 revive. I take that back. She is in C tier. Not good enough in this meta. Gaara, 2 revives, so that's minimum C tier. And you need to have to inflict your debuff to get your additional attacks, which means you're not gonna have that, so you are in C tier. Kakashi. These units came out last year, by the way, and they're in this low of a tier. Sakura is a special just because she locks terrain. B tier just because they're all tanky. Jiraiya should be down here. They all have 5 revives plus. Except for I think Hashirama is 5 withstand. So this Kakashi has a built-in 7 additional attacks to Nun units. And Nun units are the best units in the game right now. And he has 3 revive. That's solid B tier. So in PvP, if you don't have the S tier units, which let me tell you this in advance, there's not going to be a lot of units in these tiers this time around. You'll be fine using them. Especially for 3v3, probably. Sasuke. Sasuke has 1 revive. See how like these units age so poorly? So if you have your state up, you do 7 additional attacks. That's what I talked about before. You're not going to have that state up. With 1 revive, you're in C tier. Not good enough. This Naruto was the very first rainbow unit in the game. V something Naruto. He has 2 revive. He has immortality when his state is up. You're not going to have your state up. He cleanses. Very good, but not really. That would be really good back last year. This year, this kind of cleansing, he only cleansed normal, positive special state. Not even God. And you need to have your state up to do your additional attacks. So you're in C tier. Sasori. 1 unit. Puppet state, I'll talk about in the past, could be really broken. The thing is, people are immune to states now. So you can't really consistently put your puppet state up. I'll put you in C tier, sadly. Jiraiya. Now we're almost in the 2022 unit. 2021 unit. High chance to deal 2 additional attacks. We're getting there. You have 5 withstand and a built-in 50% damage cut. So you're pretty much better than a lot of the units so far. So you're in B tier. Madara. Blue Madara used to have the best lead in the game. He has 1 revive. And you instacast skill 1, which does 1 million plus 3 additional attack to Konoha. And then additional 3 other if you have your state up. You're not going to have your state up. So we're just going to judge it by 3 additional attacks. You have 1 revive, so you're slightly better than everyone else in C tier. So you can be in B tier. And the next unit is Guy. Sadly, this guy, easy, D tier. You're a single target. There's no reason to put any unit that's a single target anywhere above D tier. And there's going to be a very new unit that's going to be in D tier. And I think you guys know who that's going to be. Just because they're single target. Very big mistake. So now, next unit. This is the very first 2021 God that we got this year. So now we can see the difference between gods back then. So the highest unit from gods before 2021 is Sakura, just because she locks terrain. But these are gods, right? No gods has the terrain except for 4, which is Sakura, and then Naruto, Sasuke, and this Hashirama right here. So just because she locks terrain, she's a little bit higher than everyone else, because locking terrain really strong, especially with how strong the GK are in this meta. And a lot of the OP GKs like Madara and Sasuke don't lock terrain. So that's why Sakura is up here in B+, just because she can stop those 2 from controlling the game. And now the very first 2021 unit, which is Minato. He has 2 revives. So the way Minato was built is still very similar to all these older units. But if you have your state up, you do 7 additional attacks, and you do 5 additional attacks, and you do 5 to nuns. I don't even look at his skill 2 because that's a god state. So you need your god state up to do 5, but you have a built-in 5 against Nun. And Nun is the best type of units in the game right now, so still solid B2. In Izuna, I almost called you Indra, I don't know why I just did that. Illusion inflicts. That's not really helpful against the meta now, but back then that's very strong. You have 1 revive, but you're gonna be in B+ just because you instacast your S1 and you inflict the disabled positive god and special state to enemy. That's very, very strong. But not strong enough. Maybe an A tier. Because we don't have anyone in A tier. You're slightly better than Sakura, I think. So solid A tier. Konan. She has 6 withstand, so slightly higher than all the withstand in the game. She's an Akatsuki, but Akatsuki sucks sadly. Your god state will never be up, so your additional attacks will never trigger. So you're in B tier. Just because if I put Hashi in B tier just because of withstand. Oh, now you're also in B tier. Just because of the way this meta changed. You will be in so much higher spot if your god state can actually stay up. I don't even go over what their state are just because there's no way to keep them. So Naruto. Naruto has 2 revives, 4 if there's an Akatsuki. There's an Akatsuki that's very, very strong, so we can consider him as 4. That's really, really good. He removes a positive state. Chance to seal. I believe this is one of the first units that we are looking at that can actually inflict status effect. Around this time, status effects become one of your go-to just because everyone has protection to your states at this point. So you deal 4 additional attacks to Akatsuki, that's very good. And then if they're not a Konoha, you deal 2 more. How strong is Naruto in my opinion? Probably in B tier. I don't think he's as good as Kizuna. But the fact that you have 4 revives against the GK Pain V3, it's gonna make it really strong. I'm not considering your god state since you're not gonna have that up 100% for sure. But your skill 1 additional attacks doesn't care about that. All you care about is seeing an Akatsuki or someone that's not a Konoha. And then Hinata. Hinata has 5 withstand. And that's it. She's single target. Put her in C. That's how much this meta changed. Back in the days, Hinata was like the best character in the game. She's like the most painful character to fight. But now, there's really no point of running Hinata. That's just how the meta left behind. And I'm considering these units with legendary potential, by the way. So I'm imagining every character in this list with max legendary potential. So Hinata is just single target that can't debuff. What do I use you for? Sadly, nothing. Sakura. Sakura has that unique mechanic of cleansing status effect. She has 3 revive, which is really solid. And I believe she has an additional 3 additional attacks to non-Konoha, so A+ for her. Plus she removed special in God state, which is very strong. And she inflicts charm, so she's one of the best units in the game that we've seen so far. Hashirama. This is the Hashirama that came out earlier the year. He has 3 revive, and then when he's attacking against an action, that's very normal for people now. You inflict seal, Uchiha, upon withstand, so that's solid because the meta next is gonna be Uchiha, 100%. So how many additional attacks you do? You deal 5 additional attacks to Uchiha. You remove negative stuff to your party. You inflict Jutsu seal. Your S1 doesn't. Well, your S2 doesn't matter. So I'm judging you with 5 additional attacks to Uchiha. Is that strong? Yeah, that's pretty strong. But that's in A tier. I think Sakura's a little better just because of her cleansing, and you don't do that. Deidara. 5 additional attacks, 5 village. Sadly, that should have said, if that said non-Akatsuki, that would have been so good. But it's not. But it skips. And then I think that's it. And then 3 withstand. And upon death, you insta-kill a random enemy. I think you're solid. You're about B. You're probably about B+. And then we have Pain. This Pain came out 6 months ago, and I hate to say it, but he sucks. There's no reason why to run this Pain. So he removes states. And that's it. You need to have your special state to deal your additional attacks. It's 15 additional attacks, but you're not going to have this state up. You have 3 revives, so I'm going to put you in B tier. Just because you remove Is that, yeah, just because you disable a positive special in God state. But there's nothing good about you anymore. The thing that made you solid, you can't ever put up. Just because everyone's disabling that. You have 3 revives. 3 revives is below average at this point. Because the average, in my opinion, is 5. But your cleansing is good enough to be in B tier. That's just the difference of how this meta is. A couple months ago, this pain was in double S tier. His LP was in triple S tier. But now it's in B tier. Just because of the one character that came out. A lot of these characters that were OP before are just useless. So we get units back then who's slightly better. But that's because they don't rely on states. Units like Pain, who heavily relies on his God state. If you don't have your God state up 99% of the fight, why am I bringing you as a character? So we look at Kizuna, don't care about his God state, don't really care about his God state. Don't care about God state, don't care, locks terrain, don't care about God state. We can actually drop him here. But this Pain, cares about his God state. And that hurts him so much. So, the next unit. Blue Madara. This Madara was pretty fun. So, before that, let's see what he does. So, this Madara. He inflicts illusion, which is very good. Back then. Not anymore. He has forward stance and his limbo state. Does he care about his limbo state? He deals 4 additional attacks to non-enemies. This is the first character I'm going to talk about as S1 because he sets HP to 1 to enemies that are not none. The problem is, none is the best team. So that's kind of the awkward part about him, is you want to put him in a none team. But his usefulness is not that good versus none teams. And his limbo state I'm not even going to consider because, you know, it's a God state. He paralyzes and deals 4 additional attacks to none. This is awkward because he's OP, just not against none teams. And that's the best team, so I kind of have to put you in A+. And barely missing the S tier. Just because of that. Just because you're bad against your own kind. When none was the worst team in the game, this Madara single-handed carries that none team. But now none is the best team in the game and you're just not good against your own kind. So sadly, you're going to drop down a little bit. How's your lead, by the way? No, your lead is up. Meh. Now, this Naruto, V11, I think. So, people use this V11 Naruto mainly for his lead. That's it. His lead was the best lead in the game when he came out. It's because he gave first strike guaranteed to 5 village enemies. He has 3 revives and gives himself some okay stats. He gives 5 village 2 turns of illusion immunity, which is very, very strong against Madara and Kizuna. When Kizuna terrorized the meta, he was being used for like 4 months straight. So he has 3 revives. He has an amazing lead. He has 7 additional attacks. And he jutsu seals. So, I'm not talking about his S2 because that's a normal state. God state. Back then, he was in S, like in double S. But, I'm gonna have to put him in A+. If you're using this Naruto, you're using him mainly for his ability 2 that gives you illusion immunity. And you're using him for his 7 built-in additional attacks. At the moment, 7 is the most we've seen so far. Pain has 15. But you need to have your state up to hit that. And he's not, that's not just gonna work. Everyone else, average is 5. So I'm putting you in A+ just because you deal slightly more damage than everyone else in this league. Is 7 really worth it? Not really. Would I run him in the team of Konoha now? No, because his lead actually aged poorly. There's no reason to run him as a lead anymore. and that's just it. So I'm putting him there just because he gives his party illusion immunity and he deals 7 additional attacks. And now we have Obito. This is the, if you know me, this is the reason. This Obito is the one I was talking about earlier, about the new unit that's going in detail. Your single target with 3 revives. I don't care about your revives. Your single target, you're 100% useless. Now we have Gaara. 5 revives, which means minimum he's in B tier. He's tanky. He has damage. He has 80% damage cut against Akatsuki. Akatsuki is pretty good back then. Now this is where everything goes south. You need to inflict his special state to deal 500,000 additional attack, which is 5. So, by that alone, that would put him in B tier. But that's not it. Putting Gaara in A+. Putting Gaara in A+, for one reason. And that reason is he removes terrain. That is so good in this meta. That effect is not seen anywhere. There's like 2 people that I know that destroys terrain, and Gaara is one of them. So it's Gaara and Kizuna Sasuke V2. I believe those are the only 2 units I know so far that destroys terrain. Unless I'm missing some back here, you guys can put it in the comment section if I'm missing them. And if I am missing them, I'm putting them up. So he says 5 revives and he destroys terrain. That is so strong. Especially since his S2 makes him a protector. So he's an actual tank that has a very specific use that is 100% useful. Some of the GKs in the game that I talked about earlier don't lock terrains. So how do they put the terrain up? By running Gaara and removing those terrains that are already locked. It's a very strong unit. Just because of that one effect. His kit is hidden behind states, but he's tanky enough with a special effect to put him in A+. Aged pretty well in the wrong way, because that wasn't his job in the past. In the past he was a tank. But now he's a terrain remover, which is really strong in this meta. So now we talk about his sister, Temari. Temari has 5 withstand, and sadly, I don't think she's as strong as Gaara. She has 5 additional attacks versus a non-5 village, so that would work against the meta right now. So I will put her solid in B+. Can't really talk about her skill too sadly. So now there's 2 more gods left. We are going back so fast. So at the moment, no gods has made it to S or S+ or double S. That's how different this meta is in my opinion. Now, Minato. Minato is a very unique unit. Because when he first came out, we all said he was trash. But is he trash? Well, let's see. He has 5 revives. Automatically good. And what does his kit do? He has insta-kill immunity built in, which is amazing. He has seal and jutsu seal immunity. And then when he gets attacked, he removes a disabled positive special and god state effect, which is really solid. And then he cancels enemy. He's hidden behind a god state, sadly. But that might be okay. Because when he attacks an enemy, he disables their positive special and god state. So that's really strong. And then you inflict the divinity state. The divinity is not the one we're going to talk about. Just because he has a built-in 10 additional attack. That built-in 10 additional attack is higher than Naruto. So that should already put him higher than Naruto, right? And so you disable, you have 5 revives. And you have 10 additional attacks. That's already better than a lot of units these days. And then if you can somehow keep your God state up, which I'm not even gonna consider because that's impossible at this point, you get 10 more extra. So I'm not even gonna consider that. So you just have 10 additional attacks. I think I'm gonna put you in S plus just because you have five revives. So 5 revives. You disable positive special state. You have a guarantee. You have a high chance of built-in extra turn. Extra turn is the best turn manipulation skill in the game. And you have 10 additional attacks. So we trashed you when you first came out just because all you did was damage. But now, that's pretty much what most units need nowadays, is damage. If you have 10 additional attacks, I don't see why I'm putting you lower than S, especially if you have 5 revives. So that's just how you are. Pretty good. Nowadays, you age pretty well. So congrats. And then the latest one is Hashirama. Now this is the funny part. We called this Hashirama tragic just because of his kit. His kit is hidden behind a god state. But if we don't consider the god state, what kind of unit is he? He has 5 revives, and he cares about his basic attacks. If you look at his ability 3, I mean, you grant 60% damage cut to Konoha, very strong. And then your S1. Your S1 is 2 million plus 3 additional attacks built in. You inflict a cut state, we ignore that doesn't matter. And if the enemy is in Uchiha, you deal 10 additional attacks. So, that's the funny thing about how this game is. We trash talk you. And I also did that as well because we ignored everything in your S1 and we just look at the thing that was disabled, which is your S2. So we looked at your S2 and said, your S2 is getting stopped. This character sucks. But we ignored the fact that your S1 deals 13 additional attacks to an Uchiha. The meta is Uchihas. So what's better than... There's nothing better than 13 additional attacks. 17 plus 8 plus 1 more. So his damage versus on Uchiha, if you have him max LP, is 12.6 million. This is the highest damage for a god that we've seen so far. I don't see why I'm putting you lower than S+, when you're 100% doing so much damage to the best type of units in the game. I don't see why I should put you lower. And Minato is already up there too, he does 10. And if you can keep your state up, it's 20. I don't think you will, just because that's pretty hard these days, especially if you attack Madara once. But you still do 10 additional attacks. 10 additional attacks is a lot. This is 7, this is 5, this is 5. I forget you, I think you're also 5. So that's how this is set up right now. So we kind of, with ranking these gods, we built something that will tell us how these units are. So now, this is a perfect time to label these tier. So what is D tier? D tiers are your single target / no sustain units. That's just the best way to describe it. C, AoE damage / sustain / small sustain. To be honest, I'm thinking about putting her in here just because she's single target. B tier. B tier is your big sustain unit. So that's around. So if you, what that means is 5 revive plus / 5 withstand. So damage wise, it's still an AoE damage, but it's not a lot of damage. But it's at least making you very tanky. Your B plus are your average DPS with good sustain. It's not a bad. Not a bad thing. Your A plus is your disabler Disabler. I cannot talk. Disabler. Good DPS with good sustain. And your A plus are your good DPS. So good DPS I want to say is between 7 additionals at least with good sustain. Your S plus, your S tier is your great DPS. So 10 plus additional. Plus great sustain. So that's what that is so far. Let me actually. So S, 10 additional attacks. If you have 5 revives, perfect. A plus, if you have 7 additional attacks at least. If you have 3 revives, I'm probably gonna push you an A plus with 7 additional attacks. If you have 10 additional attacks with maybe 2 revives, I might push you also an A plus. We haven't seen an S plus or SS yet. We'll go over those when we reach them. But with that, we can move on. Also, just to bring up, the problem with gods is the fact that they're gods means Gree is 100% looking to give them a god state. Out of everyone in here, we've seen unique state once. Unique state was only seen once, and that's Obito. That's how bad gods are compared to everyone else. The meta, I said it earlier in this video, because this might be a long video, I don't know how long this video is going to be. This meta is unique state. So it makes sense that you don't see a lot of gods in SS or S+. Just because no gods have unique state except for the worst one, who's a single target unit. And with that, we can go over to GKs. Fun part about GKs, they get unique states. Unlike the gods, GKs will have unique states. So GK, in my opinion, is so much better than gods. So let's go over them. Now first, the very first GK in the game is Kaguya. What did they do to your 7-star? Not really. Nothing. I don't think you even have any revive. Yeah, you have nothing. So, that's what I said before. Single target / no sustain unit, you have no sustain. This Madara has 2 revives and AoE. It says it right here, AoE, small sustain. We put you in C tier. Sasuke has no sustain, but your AoE. This is the hard part about this. Sasuke was one of the very first legendary units in the game. He terrorized the meta during his prime, but now he's in D tier. There's no point of running him. He doesn't have any sustain, and his damage cut doesn't matter. Obito, again, no sustain, AoE. These are the struggle of the earlier GKs. Earlier GKs was rough, because they didn't age well, sadly. Indra, I believe, is single target with no sustain. One of the worst units we've seen so far. We have GK Kaguya. Again, no. When she first came out, she changed the way the game is played because she disabled positive special and god state in the start of battle. That was one of the best things in this game back then, but she aged very poorly just because she doesn't have any sustain. See, we have a theme going on right now. GKs did not have any sustains when they first came out. Nagato, no sustain. Extra lives actually matter so much. Now Madara. Alive Madara is another character that terrorized the meta. He has 1 revive. He instigates S2, which inflicts a special state. We don't care about that. His S1 deals 3 additional attacks randomly to a god. So you're solid in C. Pain, 5 revive unit. This is the very first 5 revive GK in the game. And 5 revives is what I said earlier, is probably the minimum that you want. He deals 2 additional attacks to non-Akatsuki. but he's not always hit. But I don't know how much that matters, to be honest. But he has 5. So he's average DPS with good sustain. Good job, Pain. Now, Blue Madara. Blue Madara has 1 additional attack. He has 1 revive. Solid C tier for you. Now we have Izuna. Izuna is single target with 2 revive. You already know where that's going. Single target. Useless. Don't worry about him. Should be checking if these characters remove terrains, but to be fair, I don't think they do. Naruto, GK Naruto, 1 revive. Sadly, you aged very bad. Now Itachi, 2 withstand, extra turn, no additional attacks. Your terrain is solid, but that's gonna get locked. So we're just gonna push you in C tier. Also aged poorly. These are still the units from last year. We have Kabuto, no additional attacks, 2 revives. That's C. I believe he's AoE. Yep, AoE, so that's C tier. Sasuke, your single target. No, nothing else to even say. Your single target with 2 revives. Blue Kaguya, similar to Yellow Kaguya that we talked about. No, you don't have anything else. Yeah, you're just bad. No sustain. No sustain, no sustain. Obito, 5 revives, single target. This is a hard one to put, but not really, since he seals anyone who attacks him. That's actually pretty solid. You're in B tier. If you're AoE, you would be in B+. This Obito is my most hated character in the game, just because he's a pain. Shisui, I believe the next unit. 1 withstand, AoE, you deal additional attack depending on how many Konoha or Itachi in your team. That's max 5. That's a good DPS with a average DPS with good sustain. It's 5 additional attacks, but you don't have a good sustain, sadly. Actually, let me just change this to okay sustain. Pain. This Pain has 5 revives, and you do the exact same thing as Shisui, but you have 5 revives compared to him, so you are in A tier. Very good Akatsuki units, one of the best that we've gotten, especially when he got his LP. Very, very strong. White Madara, the birthday Madara from last year, that is very, very bad. Did not age well. You deal 6 additional attacks if you inflict them with your state, I believe, right? No. Yes. I don't remember. Or to gods. You deal 6 additional attacks to gods, but you have 1 revive, I believe. So, your sustain is bad, but your damage is a little better. It's a hard one. I think I'm gonna put you in B+. If you had a better sustain, you could have made it to A+. I spelled this wrong. Yeah, you could have made it to A+. You're almost to 7. You could have been in A, but your withstand is a little lower, and you don't bring. Actually, I'm gonna put you in B+. I'm gonna be nice, just because you ignored extra lives for Konoha. That might be useful at the end of the day. Gaara. You need to have your love state to deal 10 additional attacks. You're not gonna have your love state up, sadly. And you have 5 withstand, so B. You don't have enough damage, sadly. But Obito. Obito has 2 additional attacks, and then he inflicts his state, which is not gonna happen. 5 withstand. This Obito was really strong before the meta change, so C tier. Sadly, he drops bad. Well, 2 additional attacks. It's hard. Well, I put you in B, but your sustain isn't that strong. I guess I'll put you in B. Just for 2 additional attacks, because not a lot of characters in C tier does additional attacks, other than the Naruto, but you need to have your state up for that Naruto. Next is the first character to get a legendary potential unit in this game, which is Sasuke. And let me tell you, this Sasuke sucks. I've been saying it when he first came out. Don't be a fool. This character is awful. He has a high chance to deal his additional attacks, and he deals 5 more if their HP or your HP is below 10%. This never triggers, And if your other additional attacks don't trigger, why am I using this character? This character is very bad. Don't use him. Now Itachi. How did Itachi fit in this? He has 2 revives, so that's below average. He deals 10 additional attacks to a random enemy. He cares about being sealed, and if they're sealed, that's perfect. You ignore the extra lives. Think Itachi aged very well. I'm gonna put him in A+. I wish his sustain was a little bit better, and I wish his additionals were AoE, but what are we gonna do about it? Now we have Kakashi. Kakashi has 3 revives with 10 additional attacks. I think we know where that goes. Plus he insta kills. Kakashi is a very strong S unit. He was the best character in the past, but just doesn't age well. Well, actually his terrain locks. I forget about that. S+. I forget his terrain actually locks. So he has the paralysis and seal. Insta kills on his S2. He deals 10 additional attacks. He cancels and he seals on his S1, and he insta kills on his S2. Counter attacks paralysis, and he locks a terrain at the start of battle, and he's fast. If he had 5 revives, perhaps. But actually, sorry for what I said earlier, I forgot your terrain locks. There you go. You're an S+. Our very first S+ unit in the game. Now, this Sasuke. Sasuke has 3 revives. He doesn't lock terrain, sadly, but he has a unique state. He has a unique state that gives him 300% speed, flash cast speed, and instant action every time Naruto acts. His terrain is really strong, insta kill immunity and type advantage. And then for enemies, they can't buff, and then you just seal them. You deal 6 additional attacks. You remove positive special in God state. High chance to seal. So, this Sasuke. This Sasuke is in S tier. Very good. It is not 10 additional attacks, but it's a unique state that lets you bypass something very toxic that we're going to talk about next. The next thing that we talk about, this Sasuke bypasses it, which is why I'm putting him in S. His additional attacks and sustain is less than these 2 for sure, but these 2 will get hit by this character that we're going to talk about next. They're going to get hit very bad. Sasuke doesn't get really affected by that. And he disables state. To be honest, you could put him in A+, which is fine too, but I'm going to put him in S just because he's an Uchiha. That's another thing that we got to consider, by the way. If you're an Uchiha, you're slightly better than everyone else. So he is an A+ in power, but just because he's an Uchiha, he gets slightly boosted. This Itachi is probably also the same. Actually, I'm gonna keep him down there just because his additional is single target. If his additional was AoE, then 100% he would go up there. Now, Pain. GK Pain. Probably the best character in the game in my last tier list. I don't know even if I added him in my last tier list. But this Pain has 5 revives, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. Yep, 5 revives. Does he lock terrain? 100% locks terrain. So, instant action when attack. And then he gives buffs to Akatsuki. Akatsuki sucks up, by the way, except for Itachi. But Itachi, you don't even run him in Akatsuki. So, he deals 4 additional attacks, slightly lower. But you inflicts the Shinra Tensei state, I believe. And what that does is you limit speed to 1000. Amazing. Cast speed -2. Amazing. And then the normal thing that this meta has now is these unique state. This is Shinra Tensei is a unique negative state, and this state disables positive special in God state. So that kind of effect is the reason why I said earlier, if your kit relies around some states that's not unique, I'm not even gonna consider them, just because Pain exists. Characters like Pain exist. You disable that. And the thing I talk about Sasuke, his unique state sets his cast cast speed to flash. I mean, that -2 cast speed reduction from pain doesn't matter. That -2 cast speed from pain is going to be everywhere from negative debuff, negative unique state. So having your cast speed to flash is really amazing. And then his terrain that actually locks acts as a formation. It disables first strike, insta cast, and instant action to enemy. It makes you immune to fixed damage, which is a lot of additional attacks, by the way, are fixed damage. So that's negating a lot of extra damage. And then he just cleanses states and stuff like that. And then he makes a Akatsuki type advantage, which in reality is just gonna be you. So this pain is S+. Actually, that's why I'm dropping this character to S. This is why I put him in S earlier. He's in S+. Now Madara. GK Madara is the second last unit to come out. He came out earlier this month, about 18 days ago actually. He has 5 revives, so this is when 5 revives becomes your normality. And he grants first strike if there's a Konoha or God enemy. He's immune to formation, which is amazing. Enemy formation that matters more for the enemy than for you. So what that means is when you have your formation up and you see this enemy Madara, normally you can be comfortable because you'll be disabling the first strike, not against this Madara. This Madara will be ignoring your formation as an enemy and could still have first strike. That's why that effect is stupid annoying, especially if it's built in like that. Thing is, I believe if you start with an instant state, your first strike is negated. I think I gotta see more about that. That's more for Kizuna, Naruto, and Naruto talk. But let's talk about this Madara's kit. 2 million plus 3 additional attacks, which is, if we talked about earlier, that's average damage. But the thing is, he has a unique state, which is really strong, that deals 3 more additional attacks that are penetrating damage, with a high chance to be type advantage, and also recast the skills. So this Madara has 3 plus 3, 6. If you can keep his terrain up, which you can, I'll talk about why you most likely can later. And if you can keep this terrain up, you get 2 more additional attacks as also a penetration damage, and you recast that. So that's 8 additional attacks that turns into 16. And you can pretty much keep this terrain up, and then just because of a certain old units that you might want to be running with them. So with that, Madara is in S+. So if you look at the difference between the 2 S+ units, they're both unique state user. That's one thing that I want to put in S+. You need to be a unique state abuser. I want to put abuser as a word just to say that like that. Pain has a unique state debuff that lets the enemy not do anything. Madara has a unique state buffs that protects him from everything, as well as letting him go off. You're just gonna go off with this Madara for free, and there's nothing can stop you. Sorry about that, just want to drink a water because I've been talking for a long time now. So Madara is just gonna have that protection as well as big damage, while Pain doesn't have that damage but has that prevention. That's why these 2 are in S+. And I believe that's the end of it. That's the end of the GKs. So now we talk about Enbus. Enbus are pretty easy to talk about. A lot of them are useless. So to talk about Enbus, let me set up I have the database in the background. Make sure I can see what they actually do. The very first Enbu, they have 5 revives. Your kits are AoE and single target, but they're the only Enbu that doesn't have a formation. So that's in B tier, just because they got 5 revives. Pretty tanky. The second Enbu, which is Madara and Hashirama. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Hold on. I'll be right back. I was muted the entire time. So, as what I was saying before, Kizuna Hashirama, I'm putting all formation in B+. Just because I mistranslated Kizuna Naruto and Naruto. Kizuna Naruto's unique state actually says immune to enemy formation. And the reason why that's not as good as what you think it is because your formation is going to be up. So why do you want to be immune to the enemy formation when they don't even have a formation up? That's just a very big, this skill sucks kind of thing, where you're immune to something that's not even up. So I misjudged all formation units, sadly. But as an enemy, the enemy formation immunity actually matters a lot more. That's why I talked about that with Madara. He's immune, as an enemy, he's immune to your formation, which is going to work 100% of the time. So with that, most of the time for these characters, I'm just going to be talking about their formation. Actually, I lied. This character is an A+. Because I forget, this is another character that destroys terrain. So, Madara and Hashirama's S1 deals 7 additional attacks and destroys terrain. We can ignore their entire kit. They have a formation, they destroy terrain. That alone makes them very, very strong. They're the first character with a formation as well. There's nothing really special to talk about their formation. But they destroy terrain. That's good enough. And then we have Minato and Kushina. They are an AoE unit with their S2, but it's 2 additional attacks. That doesn't mean much. Single target that inflicts illusion with 2 revives. They're probably the bare minimum of a formation unit, which is in B+. Another unit that's gonna be very, very fun. In my opinion, Izuna and Tobirama is probably the non-formation unit you want to run if you don't have Shisui and Itachi. Just because their ability to actually destroys terrain. As what I said before, destroying terrain is very, very important. And if you get to stage 3, you're immune to terrain, but that's not really... Most terrains nowadays are positive effects, so that's not gonna matter. You just want to destroy the terrain, and they can destroy it. Plus, your S1 insta-kills, while your S2 is doing okay damage that you don't really care for. So with them, they're a little worse since you have to die, so I'm gonna put them in A. The next character is Kakashi and Guy. Kakashi and Guy for the longest was the best formation unit for Konoha. Their stage 2 makes you immune to terrain, so that's very strong. Their S1 paralyzes, their S2 skips. They have 2 revive, which is pretty average for a formation. So yeah, they're solid. I want to say solid A. So immune to terrain is slightly worse than destroying terrain. It's because at this point you want to destroy terrain, so you can put your own terrain up. Because the GKs are very, very strong. Nagato and Itachi. Sadly, this is a unit that didn't age well. Koto Amatsukami will never hit. If Koto Amatsukami never hits, there's no point of running this character. Your S2 removes a positive special in God State, but as I said before, this meta doesn't care about God State. It's already disabling it with God Pain, especially since they're Akatsuki. I'm imagining you have GK Pain on your team. Your GK Pain is disabling their positive special in God State, which means their S2 is useless. If their S2 is useless and your S1 is useless, sadly, this character aged very poorly. So which means all they have left is their formation. So that's a B+ for me. Their formation is very strong, but their kit is not good enough. which is kind of the opposite of Sakura and Tsunade. Their formation is very strong. Their kit has always been very garbage, but their formation is strong enough to carry. Because they also revive, I'm pretty sure. So you can revive anyone. That's slightly more useful than Nagato and Itachi's entire kit. But their formation is probably better, so I'm also going to put them in A. The free unit, I guess we can talk about them. They got a formation. It's free to play formation. What's more you want? It's free to play. And then the next unit is one of the worst tragic ever happened in Shinobi Collection. It's his birthday, Sasuke and Orochimaru. My question is, why did this character even come out? His S1 is single target, 6 additional attacks. Very useless. S2 is just as bad. It's just as bad. It's AoE and deals 3 additional attacks. He has 3 revives, so slightly better than Minato and Kushina. And his formation is kind of ass. Doesn't really do any. Yeah, I'm looking at this and it doesn't do anything. And they're not on Uchiha, so sadly you're gonna be in B+. Just because you have a formation. The thing for formation is disabling turn manipulation. That alone is good enough for B+. But in the end, like, that's all they do. So the next unit is, get this mouse up, is Nagato and Pain. So Nagato and Pain, when it first came out, was horrible. Just because they did not fit the meta. But now that we know how well Nagato and Itachi went, these characters are slightly better than Nagato and Itachi. Because if I look at this, their state, without look at that, their formation is started to their S1 this time around. So you got your turn manipulation, high chance for Akatsuki to cut in. That itself is better than the entire kit of Nagato and Pain. And then high chance for an extra turn. Yeah, these characters amazingly age so much better than Nagato and Itachi. And just because of that, extra turn manipulation, as well as turn manipulation, I said, extra turn, cut in, you have damage limit 880. No, that's not damage limit. Extra damage if you hit stage 5. At the end of the day, they age better. Now, the next character is Naruto and Jiraiya. This character is weird. If you can keep their state up, they're very strong. But sadly, I'm not sure how strong you can get there. Or like how often you can get there. So I'm just gonna have to judge them based on everything else. And with that, sadly, I think I'm gonna have to put them in A. Their damage is good, 100%. They're DPS, but it's not strong enough, especially since you can't keep it up. Now Itachi and Shisui. This character is very easy, S+. The exact same reason why I put Pain in S+. Go over the kit real quick. They got 3 revives, which is your average for an Enbu unit. If you attack them, I'm pretty sure you inflict Amaterasu state, whatever they call it. Is it Amaterasu or Tsukiyomi? Let me just double check which one is it. Amaterasu? Yeah, Amaterasu. So his Amaterasu state is 100% why this character is broken. Both his skills are AoE. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but that doesn't matter. So his Amaterasu state is very similar to Pain. So the first thing that they say is that every turn or when attacked, HP minus 30%. HP minus 30% is really, really strong in this meta, because if they have 26 million HP and their damage cut 700,000 and you reduce 26 million HP, let's do that. 26 million times 0.3. That means you dealt 7.8 million damage just for touching them, poking them, or them getting a turn. 7.8 million damage is the exact same thing as a character with 10 additional attacks. So 30% equals 10 additional attack characters, and you get this by just standing there. So that's really amazing. HP minus 30%, and then cast speed minus 3 to minus 5. Already talked about why that's good with pain. And then you also disable their positive special in God State. This character is the best Enbu in the game, and it's not even close. The only thing they're missing is terrain removal, and if they gave him that, that'd be extra. So their formation inflicts illusion per turn to enemies, as well as making you immune to seal, debuff, and status effect. Let's see, Jutsu Seal and Illusion. Oh, Illusion too. And then when you hit stage 3, see, if they're inflicted with Amaterasu state, chance to just inflict another thing. Plus they got a damage limit. Yeah, these characters are just insane. They do so much. So again, they fit unique state abuser. You abuse Shinra Tensei, you abuse their positive special state, you abused their Amaterasu state. And the final, I think that's, yeah, and then the final thing we're gonna talk about today is in this tier list, the reset of the tier list, are Kizunas. If you can see here, I only have the Kizuna as one character. Instead of judging a Kizuna as 2 individual character, we're just gonna judge them based on what they are combined. So for example, if Sasuke's OP and Naruto's trash, we're judging the unit as we're judging the unit on how strong Sasuke is and not how bad Naruto is. So that's how we're gonna do this unit. And if both characters is very good, then that's an extra. So the very first Kizuna, Naruto, and Sasuke. This character has 2 revives. I'm looking at Naruto right now. Enemy terrain immunity for Naruto. So, and then first strike and all that extra stuff. So his S1 deals 2 additional attacks. And then you inflict seal. Your S2 removes state. Gust state. So Naruto is, at this point of the game, is not that useful. Sasuke is pretty much the similar thing, but he inflicts illusion. And he doesn't destroy terrain, I'm pretty sure. So they got 2 revives and don't care about terrains. So, but the thing is, they can go 0 cost, so I'm gonna put 0 cost Kizuna in B tier minimum, as what I said. Well, actually not A tier, just because they can go 0 cost, and 0 cost is very important in this meta. And now, Kizuna Sasuke, the unit that aged the best, the most. This character has 2 revives, and when attack, destroys terrain. That's why you use this character. This character destroys terrain. And then if you use your S1 with Sasuke, pretty sure you also was your S2. You know, if you use S2 destroys terrain. I don't even want to talk about Itachi, because Itachi aged poorly. Itachi deals 21 additional attacks and removes positive special in God state. Those don't matter anymore. We don't care about their special state. But Sasuke age 100% well. He's an A+. Maybe even S. I'm putting him in S. Just because he can 0 cost him. 0 cost Sasuke, 90 cost anyone else. Is very, very strong. You remove terrain, which is something that's amazing. Plus you have a Kizuna skill. Your Kizuna skill is great. Now, Kizuna V3. Naruto. Naruto removes terrain. Deals 9 additional attacks to non-enemies. Removes states, I'm sorry. And then he cleanses debuffs also. We don't care about your state. His state gives immortality, but it's a positive special state. He has 3 revives. So Naruto sadly didn't age well. Naruto was OP for a long time, but that's not the case anymore. Now Minato. So Minato got the normal nonsense of being fast, 3 revives, extra turn. Cast speed is always set to flash, which is really strong. He deals 9 additional attacks to non-Konoha. And his S2 removes terrain. You know what that means? Minato is the reason why these characters are in S+, or in S tier. Minato, now you don't want to use Naruto. Now you want to be Minato. Kizuna Minato removes terrains. And that's it. And that's so strong. Kizuna Minato Redemption Arc. He's in S tier. If I rank them separately, Minato is in S tier, Naruto will be in B+ tier. That's how different this meta is. I forgot Minato did that until like as soon as I went over Kizuna Naruto, I'm like, wait, Minato removes terrain as well. So at the moment, we can see 4 characters removing terrain: Minato, Sasuke, Gaara, and Kizuna Madara and Hashirama. Removing terrain is very important, guys, especially if you don't have Ranbu Naruto. So that's why I'm giving those extra points. So Kizuna Sasuke has 3 revives, instant action, single target, 100%. I'm pretty sure. Yep. 3 additional attacks plus an extra 3. Yeah, that's it. He's not that strong. And then Sasuke. No, this is Sakura. Sakura inflicts disable positive special and God state for additional attacks. I think that's it. Yeah, these characters are still the worst. One of the worst Kizunas in the game. So, which one is the average? Where did I put him? A. Just because you can 0 cost them. Kizuna, Shinden Naruto, 3 revives. Oh, and he destroys terrain. These Kizunas destroying terrains. These characters are aging well, except that's an ability. He's skill 1, 1.5 million chance to seal, 7 additional attacks, plus an extra 3. That's 10. Kizuna Naruto removes God state. Then his unique state is he has 2 more additional attacks, high chance for instant actions, and fast. These characters are aging well. Kizuna Naruto is very strong. Before he was the worst part, but now he might be the best part. Kizuna Hinata is still the same as before, where she used the cleanser. She inflicts illusion when attacked and she protects. High chance for insta kill immediately. Yeah. But just because it's slightly worse, I'm gonna put you in A+. Just because you're 0 cost and you're an on-hit attack. Kizuna Kakashi, the character that broke the game. He introduced the damage limit meta. So his unique state is damage limit 700,000, speed plus 1,000%, high chance for instant action, and then disabled negative stuff. Very strong. And he has 3 revives. And I think that's immune to formation. I want to double check if it's... Actually, no, I take it back. Naruto's immune to formation. I'm going to drop him down. So Kakashi is also immune to terrains. But that positive is very strong. And then Obito is the negative version of it. Cast speed -2 to -5. And then disabled positive stuff. And then deals 2 times damage. Thing is, they both start with Kakashi's unique state, which is Will to Protect. So with that, as what I said before, unique state abuser, S+. They're the reason why this tier exists. And then we have Kizuna, Naruto, and Naruto. These characters, in my opinion, was overestimated. These characters kind of didn't do what we thought they did. So Kizuna, Big Naruto, they both have damage cut plus 80%. They're both immune to insta kill. But Naruto has the state that makes your team, because you give it to everyone, immune to enemy formation. Plus, it has a damage limit. The problem is, enemies don't have formations. But this character is just your damage limit, but they don't give Omni Protection. Omni Protection is very important. If you don't have Omni Protection, every character in here that can debuff you will debuff you. So that's that. He deals 7 additional attacks, I'm pretty sure. So that's that. And then Kizuna Kid Naruto deals 4 additional attacks that you can insta-cast, extra cast up to 3 times, so for a 12. He's the DPS of the family. And as much as I hate to say it, we overlook them. They're not as strong as what we think they are. They're not that good. They're big damage, but they're not a unique state abuser. Madara has a lot of damage, but as well as a terrain. Naruto is the same thing. I guess I put him in S+, but if I were to rank them, they would be the worst of the S+. That's just how it is. And now, we have 1 character left, and we have 1 tier remaining. Madara and Obito. Where else would they go? These characters is gonna break the game. Not broke the game, because you know PvP hasn't started yet. But this character, especially Madara. So the thing is, we talked about the unique state abuser, right? Pain has a debuff, Obito has a debuff. They're all cast speed reduction. They're all preventing positive special or god state. But Madara is that plus more and better. But let's go over the first one. So Pain and Shisui and Itachi has cast speed reduction as well as Obito. Madara doesn't have that. Madara disables action instead. So what's better than reducing your cast speed? Not letting you move. But that's that. Plus the cast speed reduction doesn't matter because their positive unique state, by the way, just spoiler alert, or we'll talk about it. It sets your cast speed to flash. So cast speed reduction don't matter, but this does. Next, Madara and Obito deals 2 times damage. That's Kizuna Obito's debuff, so they have it as well. Next, HP minus 35%. Shisui and Itachi is only 30%. So if the 30% is equal to 11 additional attacks, 35% is equals to 13. So 13 additional attacks. That's how much damage this guy is dealing. They're dealing 2 more extra additional attacks. 3. And then they disable positive special and god state. So everything these 3 characters does, this Madara has it combined in 1. Plus his S1 deals 7 additional attacks, which is average. And yeah, I haven't talked about everyone's Kizuna skills lately, but it's gonna matter soon. Plus you inflict Dispel Violent unique state when he gets attacked. They have 4 revives, which is very high. Madara has a built-in 700,000 damage limit, which means the moment that we have a unique state remover, Madara still has his damage limit. And then with that, he also has like plus 30. He has like 22,000 speed, because why not? His lead gives insta kill, which is the best type of lead you can have. Now let's look at their positive unique state. Their positive unique state gives instant action to Uchihas and none when attacked or per turn. So you don't even touch the speed bar. Speed plus 1,000%, because why not? Cast speed is set to flash. Damage limit is set to 700,000. You're immune to debuff and status effect, as well as Omni Protection, which is illusion, negative special, and god state effect. What else do you want from them? They have everything. Plus their unique state. So their unique state debuff insta kills non-Uchiha. So if you're not an Uchiha and you get hit by a Kizuna state, you're dead. That's it, single. And then as long as someone has this state up, Madara and Obito are immortal. And then per turn, you set the enemy's HP to 1. So that's Blue Madara's thing, but not limited. You're not limited to non units. And then you limit their attack, defense, and speed to 1,000. This character has everything. This is it. He has everything. They don't have any weakness. I can't tell of weakness for them. They have the best unique state positive. They have the best unique state negative, and they have the second best unique state negative. And then let's go over Naruto's unique state first. His Kizuna skill real quick. Instant action is disabled. Speed is limited to 1,000, and you disable their positive special and god state. So much worse than Obito. And Kizuna Kakashi is skill disabled. Is immune to all skill because this one is positive. Cast speed is set to flash, and you deal 7 additional attacks. It's just not fair. These characters are so much better than everyone else. And that's your tier list. So, and this tier list is just gonna be called. Let's see. This is the what if. What if the war was lost? So this is why non-team is the best. Because non-teams, you just run Uchihas. So Uchiha, Uchiha, Uchiha. And then you have an Uchiha right here. And then you need a terrain removal, you have an Uchiha right here. That's just it. Uchiha is the best team in the game. And with that, let's go quickly over glance at this tier list. So, the double S unit only belongs to one person. There's no reason to put anyone else up here because their strength just doesn't match. For S, these are your unique state abuser. So these two are your debuff. This one is just making you overpowered with your positive damage limiter. And this one's your DPS. S is great DPS plus great sustain plus other good stuff. So Kizuna Minato, terrain removal. Kizuna Sasuke, terrain removal. Terrain locker. This one just deals a lot of damage. This one deals a lot of damage. This one deals a lot of damage. Sasuke is probably the worst one in this tier because he's definitely an A+, but just because he's an Uchiha, he gets a little bit better. A+, these are your decent units, but as well as your good terrain removal. So Enbu, that's a terrain removal. This one is your someone that's ignore everything and seals. Additional attack bot. HP set to 1, sucked versus none. Your state removal, and then your terrain removal. Your A+ are your units that are just very solid if you don't have the best. Most of these consist of Kizunas, Enbus that do damage, just Enbu with a good formation. Same here with a terrain removal. DPS. He's probably your best DPS. That's not modern day DPS. Disabler. Someone who ignores life. And then your anti-Uchiha, but not really, because Uchihas are just that strong. Your B tier are your average DPS with okay sustain. Your B tier are your characters that just have like 5 revives minimum, but doesn't really do much outside of 5 revives. C are your units that are AoE, but has very low survivability. And then D tiers are your single target or base 5-star units that you just don't want to use. And with that is your tier list, and we have brand new king, of course. And I'm excited to see what we get in 2022, because if we continue this route, this is going to be a very bad day if we continue the way we are going. So Green, if you're listening to this, we need a negative unique state removal to make this game fun again. We want to use God states. God states are not that toxic. They make characters fun and usable. If we can't use God state, it makes some of these units very useless. Like Gaara, I want to use his God state, but at this point, all he is a terrain removal. Especially Hashirama. You give him Brandish, which is a very unique playstyle. But I can't use that playstyle when it's a God state and it gets permanently removed by Pain, Madara, Obito, and Shisui and Itachi. So please bring back God state by letting us remove negative unique state. I don't care about positive unique state, that can stay. Without positive unique state, legendary potential units are gonna be back. In my opinion, this is the best time to play because before, people are saying something that I don't agree with. People are saying to be in the high ranks, you need dupes for your units. That is wrong. you don't need dupes anymore. It don't matter if your units is max LP or LP1 or LP2 or LP3. What matter is you have damage limit unit. So the characters that are most important in this game right now is Madara and Obito, Kizuna, Kakashi. And the worst one that's actually important is Kizuna, Naruto, and Naruto. These 3 units are the only 3 units that gives preemptive damage limit. If you don't have any of these 3 units, you can't play the game. That's just how bad that is. But outside of these 3 units, you don't need dupes. You might want dupes to get your Naruto and Madara and Obito to rainbow, but that's not really that important. What you need more is having one copy of Obito, Madara, Kizuna, Kakashi, Kizuna, Naruto, and Naruto. If you can have 1 copy of those, you can play PvP all you want. If you have Kizuna, Obito, and Madara, you don't even need to care about your team. You just slot in Uchihas or none in your team and it would work. That's just how this meta is. You need 3 units. If you have 1 of the 3, that's mandatory. But you don't need dupes. So with that, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.